Good morning and welcome to the Friday edition of Let It Be Known. Have a mute problem over here, but I am your host, Stacy Brown. How are you?
Happy Friday, everybody. Peace and love. What do we say? We're in the holiday season, just a few days before a Merry Christmas, as we say. And so we're going to have some fun this morning, but we're also going to talk about some very important issues that will not just impact us, but our families, our communities, our neighborhoods. So buckle up, folks.
Yeah, and it is Happy Friday, Orange G, but he doesn't say what he's wearing today, what he's rocking today. So we're going to have to, he was two black male football coaches. But anyway, let's see what our producer has for us this morning.
Black media has a responsibility to society at large.
Okay.
One, to inform people, but also to be able to celebrate us authentically.
Okay.
To be able to champion our causes authentically, and also to be able to make our issues real for the rest of the world, because other people without the experience are not going to be able to adequately do that. And with the decline in Black media outlets, or Black media properties being bought up and no longer being Black owned, so much of the experience doesn't necessarily come from our lens, and therefore so much of the way out of our problems, our struggles, our challenges aren't necessarily from our vantage point. So they're never truly accurate. And it keeps us spinning in circles so often. I mean, you can even think about Black music. I mean, how many new rappers do you know? Or albums you listen to, right? Like, and not that everything has to be regulated, but there was like a level of regulation of Black art by Black people that kept music solid. That kept our art in a space where it was actually providing content to us, and making it something that was worthwhile. Now, there's some new rappers out there. It's not about all of them, but like on the whole, right? Like how much, are we actually getting out of the music we consume, out of the art we consume? And that's been a big problem. And Black art, that counts as Black media, And so it does. In terms of
quite literally,
in terms of society, in terms of government and politics, I do think that when it comes time to hold Black leadership accountable, that is best done through Black media outlets, through people who are actually living in the districts represented by people who actually live and experience firsthand what life is like, and the challenges that are present. And we just don't really have that at the level that we should.
That's an interesting conversation. We know the importance of Black media. We're in Black media. It's just a matter of everyone else understanding the importance of Black media.
Well, that was Mandela Barnes. He's running for governor in the state of Wisconsin. And so it's good to hear him talk about, government, Black media, and the importance of it, but also it being up to us to hold our elected officials when we look at Black people accountable, which we do hear a lot on Let It Be Known. Just because, what they say, all kinfolk. Our skin folk ain't kinfolk. And so it's better for us to call them out and let our people know, because we are the most trusted source.
Have been forever. We haven't had a trusted source other than us. If you think about it, I mean, have you ever really trusted mainstream media?
I think that there's some voices that, there was a time where you trusted mainstream media. You believed the Walter Cronkites, you believed the Barbara Walters. So there was a time. Today, in today's time, no.
But even then, right? Yeah. So you're right. Cronkite, folks like that, you did believe, but as a whole,
Dan Rather, he's still telling truth right now, and it's good to see him
big time. Oh,
Right.
he don't hold back now. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking, and I don't know this. I'm just saying this. I'm thinking as a whole. Do you think that that there was overall as a whole the Black community trusted media at some point?
Who'd you say, Black men?
The Black community overall. Do you think that at some point that there was a point in time, I should say, years ago, decades ago, whenever, that overall we trusted mainstream media?
Most definitely.
Okay.
I mean, when you think about certain things that happen, certain pivotal moments, like when unfortunately Dr. King was assassinated, the black folks ran around the TV to get the facts. You know what I'm saying? So you think about pivotal when you think about the civil rights movement, how it was covered, but then also the Black community also trusted their Black newspaper to give them the details that mainstream media didn't. But there was a value and trust in news. Even going back to before television when it was just the radio. You know what I'm saying? Certain pivotal moments you would crowd around, you've seen it. And people would listen to get the details. But once again, you would always go to your Black local newspaper to get the devil in the details.
Yeah, I remember as a kid growing up, if it was in the newspaper, then most certainly it was true. If it was in Ebony magazine, it was definitely true. So that was the feeling. Anyway, if it was in the Amsterdam News, yeah, you can bank on it. So there you go.
And you have to really, and it's like you can't think, you have to be careful because there was a lot of journalists, a lot of white journalists who would be on the forefront and they would tell the truth and it would piss white folks off. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes they get water hosed along with the Black folks because they felt a need to tell the truth. So there were some, important pivotal white journalists that you have to give credit to that helped tell the story to help, desegregate this country. And that shouldn't go unnoticed.
Oh no, I threw that question out there because that was my field. That's how I grew up too. That if I saw it in the New York Daily News or the New York Times or the Amsterdam News or whatever, it was definitely the case. It was no doubt. I've never thought twice about it.
Right, and like Orangey said, Bernard Shaw, and Ed Bradley, two of the best to ever do it. Yeah, I mean, journalism has come a long way, and it's really sad to see what the current administration is doing to devalue it, to tear it down, and even to erase Black people from it. Totally, it's just really sad.
It is sad. And folks, also in the news this morning, a federal judge ruled the Trump administration lacks legal authority to continue holding Kilmar Garcia in an immigration detention. He is fighting new deportation efforts following his wrongful removal to El Salvador in March and subsequent return to the U.S. over the summer. In her ruling, Judge Paula Zenas of the U.S. Circuit Court the U.S. District Court in Maryland ordered him to be released from the processing center in Pennsylvania. She cited a lack of a final order of removal for him. They have been attacking this man. They have alleged that he is a gang member. There has been absolutely no evidence that he has ties to any gang, and his record says he's never been convicted of any crimes. They've singled him out.
Oh, they have. And I think yesterday was a great example of why, committee hearings are important. I don't know if you saw, but yesterday, I forget what committee it was, but Benny Thompson is on it. And they held the fire yesterday with Homeland Security, their behavior, and just showing how inhumane, how unlawful the Department of Homeland Security is. It was just horrific the way that they didn't have facts, they didn't have data, and they just didn't even know what they were talking about. It is scary to think about the FBI, Homeland Security, who's in charge, who are in these spaces, who are making these calls for situations like this to happen. It's a tragedy what's happening in our departments, in our country.
Yeah, we were just talking about trust in media. There is absolutely, rightfully so, no trust in anything that comes out of this administration. We'll get one more headline in before we go to our guest this morning. A new analyst from a World Health Organization, and this goes to our point, Niele, about trusting anything that comes out of this administration. But the World Health Organization, they have found that the Committee on Vaccines, I should say, have found that based on available evidence, there has been no causal link that exists between vaccines and the autism spectrum disorders. The conclusion reaffirms the WHO's position that childhood vaccines do not cause autism. Of course, we know that, again, the Trump administration's this RFK Jr. guy, this guy who is, you talk about, out there, there's no links. The World Health Organization said there's no links to autism.
Yeah, it's the people that they're putting in place, not just RFK, but even the people that they hired. I read a headline that one of the heads of like the CDC and vaccines, he was fired as a pediatrician. I mean, so they just picked the bottom of the barrel folks, right? The folks that have been disregarded, for rightfully so. And they just put them in these positions. They have no education, no experience. And some of them, that's not even what they want to be doing. But because it's a cozy job, they get the benefits, and they're white, they get put in these positions under this Trump Klan administration. And you get things like this. Thank you, WHO. Thank you, WHO.
Yeah.
Because our government's not going to tell us today what's going on.
Nope, because you have a bunch of DE&I hires in our government, don't we? That's what. Yep, Nancy Wall said it exactly about the same time I was saying DEI hire. There you go. The Consumer Financial Protection Board has proposed a rule that would strip away key fair lending protections and make it far more difficult to prove discrimination in the credit market by eliminating disparate impact and narrowing how discrimination and discouragement are defined. The rule would allow modern day redlining to continue through data models, algorithms, branch placement, and marketing practices that disproportionately harm Black and Latino communities. The proposal also threatens special purpose credit programs that have helped expand home ownership and small business access for borrowers long excluded from financial markets. The piece that Alphonso David, our next guest, concludes that the rollback would deepen racial economic disparities and calls on the public and leaders to oppose the rule before it takes effect. To talk about it now is one of the nation's foremost human rights and civil rights leaders, Alphonso David. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So this rule, Alphonso, call it what it is, right? It is legalizing, attempting to legalize redlining.
It is. And for us, this is a public service announcement for anyone that cares about economic opportunity in the United States. As you said in your opening statement, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is being run by the architect of Project 2025, Russell Vought, they're trying to dismantle systems that ensure that people can get access to credit. And this should alarm anyone who cares about economic opportunity, as I mentioned. So when we say that this new rule could implement modern day redlining, what we mean by that is this. Redlining is a system and an illegal practice that was put in place decades ago, where lenders and financial institutions could deny or limit mortgages, insurance, or even loans to people that were living in specific neighborhoods based on their race, based on their ethnicity, not based on their merit. Redlining goes as far back as the 1930s. So what government agencies and private lenders used to do is they would create maps and they would mark Black and minority neighborhoods with red lines. They labeled those neighborhoods high risk for investment. In some cases, they labeled those neighborhoods as hazardous. So people who lived in those neighborhoods were denied mortgages. They were denied home improvement loans. They were denied insurance, while families in the other neighborhoods that were coded green received favorable terms. Now, redlining has prevented Black and minority families from essentially accumulating wealth through home equity, through credit. And that is one of the principal ways that white families have created generational wealth. Now, this new rule that the administration is proposing would implement modern day redlining. And it would do a few things. It would eliminate disparate impact, which is a tool that reveals that when discrimination shows up in outcomes, not in intent. So what that means is if as a bank is denying all the Black people in the neighborhood loans, and you happen to be one of them, you're not able to show that everyone else is being denied a loan in order to prove your case. That's what disparate impact is. And that's what the administration is looking to take away. They're also looking to narrow the definition of discouragement. And that means that lenders could close branches in Black neighborhoods or based on algorithms, as opposed to accountability. And then finally, they're looking to restrict what's called the Special Purpose Credit Program. And that is one of the only tools that has been proven to close racial gaps in home ownership and small business lending. And so once that program is closed, it's going to make it that much more difficult for first-generation home buyers and other folks that are trying to get credit. It's going to make it that much more difficult for them to get credit in our economy.
Wow, ring the alarm, please. Ring the alarm. Let's talk about the Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974, its purpose, and how this current administration is dismantling that, and why it's important for our viewers to know.
So the act, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, was created in 1974, essentially to allow or break down the barriers for women to get credit. Because some folks may not remember, but it was very, very late or early into the 1970s before women were actually allowed to get credit. And this law was implemented in 1974 to essentially prohibit discrimination against women in credit. It was extended 2 years later in 1976 to include race. And essentially, Congress wanted to ensure that mortgage lenders and banking institutions and financial institutions could not discriminate based on gender, race, or ethnicity when they were issuing credit. So we're talking about loans, we're talking about car loans, home loans, mortgages, credit, any of those things. And this act was created in order to prevent the financial institutions that have the levers to mortgage lending or small business credit or interest rates. They wanted to ensure that they could not discriminate based on race, ethnicity, and gender. And this new rule that is now being implemented will effectively allow for modern day redlining and will make it that much more difficult for people of color, and in some cases, women, to get credit from these financial institutions.
You know, you have to have been born with a KKK hood on your head to have come up with this. Really, I mean, this is just, it's insane. It's really insane. And the let me just get to the question, because I'm just thinking as you speak, and I'm seeing the reaction even from the audience, and there's a lot of wows there. But I mean, we know the history of some of these folks from the Heritage Foundation and this administration. So wow is right. But the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau admits that it lacks data to measure the costs or benefits of this rule. How unusual, Alphonso, is it for an agency to push a change this sweeping without evidence? And what does that signal?
Look, this is really disturbing, and this is why we're ringing the alarm. The administration and the agency itself does not have any evidence to justify this rule. Quite the contrary. We know that Black borrowers are already being denied mortgages at nearly twice the rate of white borrowers, even when their income and their credit profiles are comparable. So I'll say that again. Black people that seek to borrow loans or credit in order to get mortgages are denied nearly twice the rate as white people who are seeking to do the same thing, even when their income and their credit profiles are effectively the same. So this rule would essentially lock those disparities in place. And I'll give you a few more examples. So, because sometimes is much more is easier for us to think about this in terms of examples. So let's just say a bank stops approving loans in a neighborhood that's predominantly Black. And they stop approving loans in that neighborhood because they're saying that there is an algorithm that labels that neighborhood as being high risk. Under the new rule, as long as the bank doesn't say we are excluding Black borrowers, they could do that.
Just because it's high, and I just want to be understand that's just because they've identified it as a high risk. It doesn't. Correct. They're not saying it's Black folks. They're just saying high risk area. That zip code, high risk. That's it. That's
correct. Okay. If we wanted to say Crown Heights, if we wanted to say pick a neighborhood in California, pick a neighborhood in Washington D.C., and we want to say that that neighborhood is a high risk, even if it's highly populated by Black people, they would be allowed to do it. Think of small business credit. You own a small business. You are a Black entrepreneur with strong revenues, right? You make a lot of money. You're being denied a loan because of the zip code based scoring, right? Because your business is in a specific zip code. The outcome is that you're being excluded, but the policy is that this is neutral, which makes it nearly impossible to challenge your denial of a loan. Think of another example, interest rates, right? You go to borrow money for a loan. You are charged a higher interest rate than someone else who is white. And you're not able to look at all of the other members in your community that are also being denied a loan, because that evidence cannot be used as a basis for you to show that you are being denied a loan or being given a higher interest rate than everyone else.
Wow.
Those are just three examples, right? So if you're looking to borrow money in order to grow your business, if you're looking to borrow money in order to buy a car, if you're looking to borrow money in order to purchase a home, you could be subject to discriminatory practices. And this new policy, if implemented, would make it that much more difficult and near impossible to prove that you are the victim of bias and or discrimination.
Dr. Marilyn says, so the U.S. is going back to 1965. She says, was this outlined in Project 2025 too? Well, as Alphonso has stated, that the architect, the author of this rule is none other than the architect of Project 2025, Russell Vought. So the answer to that is absolutely yes. But Alphonso, the question becomes, what can we do at this point?
We can do a few things. We have less than 5 days before the notice and comment period closes. So what often happens is when government changes rules and policies or regulations, they have to provide a notice to the public and give them an opportunity to comment on the new proposed rule. The deadline for the new proposed rule is Monday. So you can make your voice heard. You can send a comment by email to 2025, which is 2025, dash, N as in Nancy, P as in Paul, R as in Mary, M as in Maryland, dash, ECOA for Equal Credit Opportunity Act, at the Credit Financial Protection Bureau, which is Consumer Protection Bureau, CFPB.gov. So 2025-NPRN-ECOA at EFPB.gov. They don't make it easy with that email address, but you can certainly make your voice heard by submitting a comment. You should also contact your local leaders. It's important for your local elected officials to also voice raise their voices. And if you are raising your voices to them, it's it increases the likelihood that they will raise theirs. And then finally, I would say share the message, because all too often policies are changed and we don't know about it. We're not sort of aware of the implications of new rules and policies on our communities and on our lives. So it's important that you share the message. So again, submit a comment yourself directly if you would like, contact your local leaders, and certainly share the message to others in your communities.
Is there any protection? This is federal. So is there any protection that states can have to, to stop this from happening? I know like in red states, of course, they're going to lean towards, this decision and this rollout. But like for progressive states, can they stop this at a state level?
Progressive states have laws that they have implemented, and those laws are still in effect, and they will continue to enforce those laws. But what we also have to recognize is that these federal or financial institutions, I should say, are governed in many cases through federal agencies. They're regulated through the federal agencies. They're also regulated through state entities as well. But if these federal agencies are not going to be enforcing the laws, it makes it that much more difficult for us to have comprehensive protections. Yes, you could still go to your local state agency and try to have the state laws enforced, but the impact is going to be quite significant if the federal agencies are essentially saying that the rules that relate to disparate impact no longer apply. And that creates a little bit of a conflict, right? Because you have a financial institution that will say the federal government is telling me that I can do this. The federal government is telling me that these policies and procedures that I've implemented are certainly enforceable and permissible. And then it makes it that much more difficult when you're trying to enforce these at the state level. The federal law is the floor. States can provide additional protections. So yes, if you live in a blue state, you may have some additional protections, but that's not the case, unfortunately, for many that live in red states, where they're now going to be faced with these policies that are onerous and will effectively implement redlining in a modern way.
One of our viewers has a question. Mike V. He says, Alphonso, what does all this mean for Black banks that are limited in their lending power? How does this impact Black founders with startups looking for seed funding?
Well, Black banks can certainly continue their practices of trying to ensure that they're breaking down the barriers to credit for Black entrepreneurs. This should not prohibit them from doing so, but what will effectively happen is if you're being denied those opportunities, and I mentioned before, if you're Black and you're seeking a mortgage, you're being denied nearly twice the rate as a white person seeking the same thing. Just imagine if the major institutions are allowed to continue doing that. That means that the burden on the Black banks will increase. That means that those Black banks will be looked at more so by our communities to try to fill the gap. And maybe they'll have the resources, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll have the support, maybe they won't. So it will certainly increase the pressure on Black financial institutions that are looking to close the gap if most are allowed to effectively implement modern day redlining.
Unreal. Well, Alphonso, we appreciate you jumping on this morning with this extremely valuable information. And folks, if you can leave that before you leave us, Alphonso, that email in the chat, that would be fantastic so we can share it again. We appreciate you. Thanks for joining. Let it be known.
Thank you.
I will certainly do that. I will put if I can do that now, I will put it in the chat so you can have that.
Yeah, and we can share it again.
Please certainly share it. I just put it in the chat, I believe. Let me just make sure.
Yes, and please keep us updated with, the updated information that we need to let people know, because the scariest thing about all this is that this Trump administration is doing all of this with no data. We were just looking at hearings yesterday with the FBI and Homeland Security, no data for none of the things that they are implementing and doing. And then here we have this conversation about CFPB. There's no data. They're just doing all these things arbitrarily that's only impacting predominantly Black and brown communities and white rural communities. And it's like we feel like there's no defense. Like, how do we stop this?
We have to remember that we have individual and collective power, and we have to use our voices. Yes, I know that in many cases, we are very tired right now. Feels like we're constantly fighting back, and I understand that. But I would encourage all of you that are listening to continue the fight. We have to remember the Fannie Lou Hamers, the Jane Baldwins of the world who fought back in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, into the 70s, and continue to fight back. And it may not be easy right now, but that's what they're counting on. They're counting on us giving up. They're counting on us looking the other way. And once we actually wake up, we'll realize that we've reverted back to the 1950s. So I hope that folks can remember the importance of using our individual and collective voices to push back on onerous discriminatory policies that are now going to be implemented to take us backwards.
Well, again, thanks again, Alphonso David, everybody. We will continue to update you guys, and we're sure that Alphonso will update us as well and update everyone, because that's what he does. He's, like I said, one of the foremost advocates out there. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, and happy holidays.
Wow, it's a lot to swallow on a Friday. I mean, we get a little breakfast, a little Project 2025 with your breakfast. Shucks, man, oh man, I need more than coffee now.
I mean, that's important information because as we go, I mean, it is the weekend, but those are facts that we need to know because they are going to impact us in the months ahead, not years, but months and weeks ahead, especially as we look at 2026 and a lot of the things that this administration has done this year, they start to roll out and people are really going to feel them at the top of the year. And so this information is definitely important, and it's up to all of us, everybody in the chat, you know, us as journalists, it's up to all of us to make sure that this information is known. And like he said, we have 5 days, you know, all of us have 5 days to call our elected officials and to do something about this.
Use that email too.
Yeah. And so, you know, let's all do what we can to just let the government know that we're watching, that we're aware, and we know.
Well, also, Niele, like you said, as journalists, notice that this information is not, and it should be headlines everywhere, but it's not. So Patricia Jackson says, wake up, folks, get this information out. They want us sleep and discouraged.
And don't forget scrolling. They want us scrolling. They want us either swiping to the left or the right or scrolling up.
Isn't that's swiping? Isn't that like dating stuff?
Depends. I mean, no, because you could be looking at Instagram, and if it's a carousel, you're swiping to the left. You know.
Oh boy! So let's try and lighten it up just a little bit.
I got some heavy stuff, so you can lighten it up, and we're gonna go back.
We're gonna go back to the heavy stuff. Oh my gosh, Niele, it's Friday. Okay. Well, have you ever seen a performance so perfect that you just want to tap Hollywood on the shoulder and say, "Don't touch that. Leave it exactly the way it is." Like, for instance, Jamie Foxx as Ray Charles. He didn't just play Ray, he became Ray. And some folks said that they forgot they were even watching an actor. Try remaking that, and you might as well try rewriting Gravity. Or take Heath Ledger's Joker, or Christopher Reeve's Superman, which I still say is the best Superman. You shouldn't even touch it. Some roles are so locked in, so tailor-made that it feels like the universe said, yep, that's the one. Don't even attempt to do it. I saw a great story about this. What do you think? Is there a person out there, is there a role out there that someone nailed so perfectly, Niele, that no one else should ever try it again?
Fans say these actors nailed these roles. So,
Yeah.
I don't know about. I can't think of one that comes to mind. It probably will once the chat gets going. But there was a this year marks the 30th anniversary of Waiting to Exhale. And somebody made an image of a reimagined cast, and it was like a lot of Black young females. And I was like, absolutely not. I think this goes not just for scenes, but also for movies. You know, like some things you just should never touch. And one of the things that I saw this week was Waiting to Exhale. Don't touch it. I don't want a remake. At the minimum, I may like to have Loretta Devine, Angela Bassett, and Leela Roshan do an update. You know what I'm saying? But leave that movie alone. Leave it alone.
So Shonda H said Denzel Washington depicted Malcolm X exceptionally. And I'm going to tell you something. And I've said this to him. I've said this to others. There's an actor many of you may not know. You may know. Some of you may know. It's a good friend of mine's named Sheik, who, in fact, Denzel did The Hurricane. Sheik did The Hurricane as a off-Broadway play. And the way, if you could have had the privilege of seeing him do that Hurricane, talking about Reuben Hurricane Carter, you would probably have said, and dare I say, and people say blasphemy, dare I say that including Denzel, no one should have touched the role of Hurricane after what Sheik did on that Broadway stage. But you know, that's one for me. But there's others. I mean, we talked about Eddie Murphy the other day. 48 Hours is still, to me, one of those. Chris Tucker actually did his version. If you ask me, it was his version of 48 Hours with Money Talks. And I really like Money Talks, but it still wasn't Eddie Murphy 48 Hours.
Yeah. Some things like you could think about The Color Purple, the reimagined new version of The Color Purple. I mean, it was good, but there's nothing like Whoopi Goldberg saying, "You told Harpo to beat me." You know,
child, you sure is ugly.
You know, and then, you know, just the dinner table. I mean, it was good, but it was nothing like Mr. and Danny Glover and Steve and Whoopi Goldberg. You know, it just, you know, it was good. But I think even the opening scene of the new reimagined The Color Purple and the singing and dancing, people were thrown off with that. Like, what is this? But I mean, it got better as it went along. But like The Color Purple, leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Broadway, take it to Broadway. I thought the Broadway play was good. I saw the Broadway
I didn't see
play.
the Broadway.
But leave the movie alone. Just don't touch it.
Don't touch it. I'm sure there got to be other roles. Like, for instance, we so many people love The Wire. And there were some parts there. I mean, Omar. Could somebody else play Omar? Could somebody else play Idris's part? The way that they did that show, thank you, was absolutely. Those actors were amazing. It's hard to replicate that. Shonda H says even the remake of Sparkle wasn't as good as the original.
Not at all. Not at all. And I love Whitney. But besides, you know, Whitney being in the movie, I mean, even she didn't compare to like the mother when she went in and told Sparkle, not Sparkle, but the sister. What was sister? When she told sister, he ain't gonna do nothing but drag you down to the gutter. I mean, it was like those scenes right there. And with Sister Need Two Wings to Fly. I mean, those were just some classic lines, and they just didn't hit them like, you know, when the original Sparkle hit. It just didn't do it.
We had Jerome Benton from The Time on a couple of years ago. It was a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's a couple of years ago now. And when he was on our show, he talked about Purple Rain 2. Now, come on. How do you do Purple Rain 2? How can somebody else play Prince? How can somebody else play the kid? Not that, and it's not, and I'm not saying that he was such a great actor or nothing like that. It's just something role that you can't see someone else do. Shonda says only Idris could play Stringer Bell, and you got everybody doing Color Purple, Niele, because Aquarius says Oprah said you told Harper to beat me.
No, I mean that until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble. Those were classic lines that we remember to this day. You know what I'm saying? Did I ever ask you for anything? Not even a sorry ass ring on my finger. What
Wow, she's into it.
No, because those scenes. They're classics, and I think that's what
Car Wash.
Car Wash. Yep.
There will never. You can't do that again. You can't do that.
I mean, and I think that the Snoop and Dre did the Wash. What was like a spin-off of it. But yeah, some movies, you just can't redo.
and so again, we wasn't necessarily talking about movies as much as we were talking about roles, though. Certain roles,
but the movies have the roles in them that make them the classics. You know what I'm saying? It's the body of work that brings that out.
Yeah. There are some people. I mean, going back to The Godfather. Can anybody else, play The Godfather other than either Marlon Brando, who's obviously dead, or Al Pacino? Can they play that role? I guess it's been tried many times in many different ways, right? But duplicating that original, whew, man, oh man.
But once again, it's the body of work. New Jack City, no way. You can't redo it.
But okay, now this is where when I mentioned The Godfather, and I thought about how many times people have done those type of movies, right? New Jack City, how many times people have done those type of movies? I guess that's where you go back to the specific character, right? Wesley Snipes' character in New Jack City. It's hard to replicate that character, right? The movie has been replicated many times. Godfather's been replicated many times.
But it's the body of work. You know what I'm saying? Like we talk about The Color Purple. It's not just you told Harpo to beat me. It's like several scenes. To me, it's the body of work that kind of like just gets you. Like Scarface. There have been tons of Scarface, but there's only one movie that everybody goes to, and it's multiple scenes in that movie. But yeah, I mean, we all think, like, we can think of a scene from somebody put Richard Pryor as Daddy Rich.
Yeah, I was on G.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
I got one. Can we, even though this is can we see anybody else other than Diana Ross and Billy D. Williams?
Oh no.
Lady
Oh no. And the piano man, Richard Pryor.
Oh, Lady Sing the Blues. Lady Sings the Blues or Mahogany. Either one.
Can't.
Oh, that was a good one.
Can't touch it.
Can't touch this. That was a good one, because Diana Ross was Billie Holiday in that movie.
But see, that was the Lady Sings the Blues. Now, Billie Holiday's movie has been done before by the new actress Andra Day. And so I mean, it was a different
you're right.
aspect
and
of her life.
And I love that movie. She did a good job.
Yeah, but
it was still
now Lady Sings the Blues.
Yeah, it was Diana Ross Diana Ross, I think, if I remember right, she said she idolized Billie Holiday, so I think that kind of helped too. How about Josephine Baker? That story. Who did that? What was her name? Who did the Josephine Baker story? I can't think. Was it Lynn Whitfield? Oh my gosh! All right, we can go on and on, but we got to move on. The Game, Niele claims that he once hung up on Michael Jackson after Michael called him in an attempt to help settle his feud with 50 Cent. He said, that was a weird story that doesn't even sound like it's true, but he said, it is true. Michael called me. He was like, I don't understand why you two guys are beefing. He says, I got an idea that how we can fix the beef. And he said, this is how you should fix the beef. Both of you come on my album. And the Game said, that's where Michael lost me. I ended up hanging up on him. What? Why do you hang up on Michael? He trying to help you out. What, you're speechless?
No, I mean, I think at that time Michael Jackson wasn't the Michael Jackson of the 80s, you know, and hip hop was, you know, the thing. So I mean, I could believe it. We didn't think that Michael Jackson wore stinky pants, and according to Lionel Richie, he did. So Michael Jackson never ceased to amaze us. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, Biggie and Run DMC and Heavy D and the Fugees were all on different songs with Michael Jackson. Michael was really into hip hop.
Yeah, he liked hip hop. That was when hip hop was in its prime during that time.
Well, I mean, this was it was the late 90s, early 2000s when all this, and then before he died, he was working with Wyclef. So interesting stuff. But the game said that after he hung up on him, he said, "Man, if he calls me back, I'm definitely taking this call." What you got for us before we get out of here?
He didn't, and of course he didn't call back. But in some more headlines that are important to our experience, for a second time, this is good news. For a second time, a federal grand jury in Virginia has refused to indict New York Attorney General Letitia James for alleged mortgage fraud. Now, the grand jury rejected the Department of Justice attempt to refile the case after a federal judge dismissed it earlier. And so once again, they tried. And they, you know, and I think that, you know, this is happening a lot, even with your first story. I mean, you know, people are just sick and tired of it. And when we think about, you know, just the lack of the lies, you know, the lies, the lack of data, and them just throwing stuff out there and it being allowed to stick, I think people are getting sick and tired of it.
Yeah, and total, this is the third time that they've had to throw out the case against Letitia James. The first time because of the prosecutor, and the last two times because the grand jury refused to indict.
Yeah, this is the second time the grand jury failed to indict.
Yeah.
And then moving on, Rep. Nancy Mace has introduced a bill to rename Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, D.C. After Charlie Kirk. And as we know, the House and Senate have already passed resolutions honoring Kirk in September. And, you know, this Charlie Kirk thing won't go away because we saw just this week as well that the governor in Texas, Greg Abbott, he is implementing Turning Point in all schools and all high schools in Texas. I think Ron DeSantis has did it. And it seems like Texas and Florida are walking hand in hand with pushing certain policies, which you can expect other red states down south to pick up. But this Black Lives Matter situation, it just gets worse as the days go by.
Let me tell you something. There is 3 hotels on that little strip there. Really nice hotels. One being my favorite, the Hay Adams. If that happens, I will never stay there again. And I'm sure others feel the same way.
You know, so
that business association, the Motion Picture Alliance is there. Roland Martin is there. That business association there on that strip, if they allow that to happen, if they don't stand in front of that, then they're gonna have some problems.
Yeah. And I don't think that they're gonna place his name on the street.
Oh, Niele, you don't think? No,
they just said right now. They just said that renaming the plaza, because right now it was called Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Right.
They want
and you see those big gold letters, Black Lives Matter. That was you. You don't think that they'll do that for Charlie Kirk? You don't think so? Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe not. But maybe so. Maybe so.
Yeah.
But right now it's just the plaza, the naming of it. But we'll see. Time will tell. I bet you though, if they do that, you know, it's always the thing that you don't think that's gonna set folks off is the thing that set folks off. I think that might set folks off if they put Charlie Plaza on that street. Okay.
You never know. This stuff is ridiculous though. I mean, listen, it's a shame what happened to this man. For that to happen to anybody. Right, in that manner, is horrible. and you acknowledge that. But my gosh, he wasn't
a good person.
Well,
let's just say he wasn't a good person. He wasn't.
Right, he wasn't.
And
he
was
wasn't right. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't a whatever.
A dignitary, an elected official, right. You know, a Nobel Peace Prize winner. He was none of those things. He wasn't a college professor.
Right.
I mean,
and this is not even taking shots at him.
He was a man of the Klan. He was a man of white supremacist. That's where he thrived. That's where he lived.
Mike V says Time Magazine wants to nominate him as Person of the Year.
Oh, wow. That's hard to believe. Not Time Magazine.
Well, I mean, listen, what's his name? Hitler was Time Magazine's Person of the Year before too. So listen, if you look at the persons of the year, they're not who you would actually expect to be if you go down the history. And the reason I know about Hitler is because I recently was looking up Time Magazine's Persons of the Year simply because I have a favorite for Time Magazine's Person of the Year. I think it's Flavor Flav for a lot of reasons. What he's done in the last year, in the last 2 years in particular, with the U.S. Olympic team and other, just spreading Flavor Flav type joy, I think Flavor Flav should be Person of the Year. And so I did a story recently about that, and I did some research. That's why I knew who they pick is just unbelievable. So maybe good people should not even want that type of honor.
Yeah. You know, if you're doing Flavor Flav, I nominate Snoop too.
All right. I'm just looking at the tangible stuff. Yeah, Snoop probably has some tangible stuff, but he started the year off badly. Let's not go there. He started the year off in the,
Yeah, he did. Well, at least 254 people are in quarantine in South Carolina after the state confirmed more than 24 new cases of measles. Okay. And this is according to local health official. Now, as of Tuesday of this week, the South Carolina Department of Public Health reported 27 new cases of the highly contagious disease, now bringing the total number related to an outbreak in the upstate region to 101. So measles is on the rise in South Carolina, and yet they're worried about vaccines and not giving them. And the vast majority of the reported cases of the virus were in unvaccinated children. So if you're in South Carolina, be careful, folks, because they have a outbreak going on. Now, in a trending story that is happening, and everybody's talking about the Michigan Wolverines. Their head coach, Sharon Moore, was arrested and fired after allegations of an inappropriate relationship with his 24-year-old executive assistant. Now, if that wasn't enough, he won't be receiving the remaining $14 million of his contract, and this is according to several news sources. But it is bringing up the question. Should the assistant be fired as well? No,
absolutely not. Same situation with Nia Long's situation in Boston. And here's why I say absolutely not. This ignorant Negro, he put himself in that position. Listen, she's the subordinate. You're the boss. Off limits. You know that. This ignorant dude, she had a salary of at first
it was 58,000, and he raised it over to
90,000, and no, within 1 year. So
no, the first 2 years they showed the paperwork. I saw the paperwork. So for 2 years she was getting 58,000. This year he raised it to 90,000.
And then the knucklehead, you got a $30 million contract. It's just ignorant stuff.
She should be fired. She should be fired too.
I don't think so. She played him. He got played, and the university knows it. They're in a bad situation. My wife thinks she should get fired too. Yes, I don't think so, because I think that he's stupid enough to have been played. He's stupid enough to have been playing around like that and got played by this kid. She's a kid. She's a college student herself. He allowed her to, and then he gonna break up with her, and that's where the trouble really. That's where everything got exposed. She's a kid.
Well, then that shows that she's vindictive. She should be fired.
Hey, I'm petty too.
Fired too, because you know why?
I love
she's a threat. She's a threat. She's a threat to the team because she does unethical. What she did was unethical.
That was unethical. I agree.
She knew that man was married with 2 kids. So like who said it? Somebody said it. Shonda said, I think she should be fired too. It takes 2 to tango, and that is correct. If they were in a car, if they were in a car, nobody's saying that he doesn't, Stacy. But if they were in a car and they went to rob a bank, and she sat in the car as the driver, she would be an accomplice. So they both are responsible. She should be fired too.
Listen, I agree that she's responsible as well, but knowing all of the HR laws everywhere, the HR policies everywhere, this guy got himself jammed up. And then he tried to break up with her, and she was like, okay, you going down. And she took him down. He allowed for it. I listen, whatever happens to her happens. But this guy, I hope Charlemagne has made him donkey of the day. I mean, God, so stupid.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's arguing that, but I mean, that's nothing new other than sun. Men cheat all the time, and like everybody putting snow bunnies. That's
a shame.
I mean, it happens, but I think there's a level of accountability that she should have as well. Mean, he got what's coming to him. He got fired, he got arrested, and he lost his contract. I mean, what more do you want to happen to him? I mean, he's toast. He's done. But at
the wife is probably going to take the rest of whatever he got out of that contract. The wife is taking.
Or maybe she stays. Who knows? That's their business. Maybe she stays. They have 2 kids, you know, and it don't mean that they spent up all the millions that they got before.
That's what I'm saying. Right. It was a $30 million contract, so he got half the contract.
He got half the contract.
Got half.
You know what I'm saying? So he can go lick his wounds. You know, he in Michigan. He's not like he's in New York and California and high real estate states. You know, he gonna be all right. He gonna be all right. But the girl, if you allow her to get away with that, then she's gonna think it's okay to do it again.
Yeah. One quick thing I will say to Jemele Hill, of course, as she always does, nailed it. You know, somebody tried to come after her, but she was like, listen, when white coaches do stuff like this, whatever, they're able to rebound. Black coach ain't rebounded. And somebody says here, his chances, Dr. Mellon says his chances of NFL are done. And that's just it.
I mean, you know, men can get away with things like that. Like, oh, you know, it happens. It's okay. Shannon Sharp had a take on it too, and he said he felt sorry for the brother because he could relate.
Oh gosh, we gotta go.
All right, and last but not least, if you're looking for something to watch, since we're on the subject of sports, director Andre Gaines explores the impact that Stuart Scott had on sports and media in his 30 for 30 documentary for ESPN called Booyah, A Portrait of Stuart Scott. It premiered this week and is streaming now on ESPN. And when we think about Stuart Scott and him coining Booyah and his contributions as a journalist to sports and media, it's probably a good watch. I think I'm going to check it out this weekend.
Awesome. Stuart Scott was awesome. Thanks, folks, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Peace and love, y'all.